Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to continue on with the Last Apprentice series by Joseph Delaney. We're on to book 8. So in the US, this is called the Rage of the Fallen. In Great Britain, it's called the Spook's Destiny. So this book takes place in Ireland. They've left his Isle of Man stand-in. They've gone to Ireland. Okay, this is going to be a short review because one, this book is really complicated, and two, it gets really dark, and it's been a while since I read it. My computer was out for 2 weeks, so I had to wait, and I've only read these things once, so my memory's not great on them because I'm skimming them because they're a little dark for my taste. Fantastic books. Love if you like the spooky, the dark, the horror. Fantastic books for that. Not entirely my taste, but I highly recommend them if you like that. So, on to the overview of this book. So they're in Ireland. They get to Ireland, the three of them and the dogs. And because somehow the dogs are still alive. I don't know if I forget if they're still alive at the end of this book. I hope they are. But moving on. They try to deal with some regular spook stuff because there's not really a lot of spooks in Ireland. This pisses off some local factions. They try to stop them because these weird wizards there's this weird thing. There's these wizards in this other group whose sole purpose is every several years this one wizard group is trying to summon Pan into a goat. Which is irritating. And I like for Pan, because he's actually being summoned into a goat. He doesn't want to be summoned into a goat. They try to stop, they get in league with the people who are trying to stop this. Everything goes south. Tom gets kidnapped. They kind of use him as a sacrifice. He doesn't quite die. He gets tortured, gets sent to the underworld, essentially. Interacts with Pan, who's getting pissed off because he keeps being dragged into this world and turned into a bloody damn goat. Tells Tom how to basically free him and keep him out of the bloody goat. In return, because Alice has been captured and given by this evil witch to the Fiend, where she's going to be tortured. We'll interact with Alice near the end of the book. But she's been turned into the Fiend, where she's going to be tortured because, of course she is, because she dared to defy Daddy, and Daddy's pissed off. So, and he enjoys torturing her. So, Tom escapes, possibly gets captured again. He gets back and forth, captured again. The Grimkin finally shows up. Now, mentally mentioned, there's a ticking clock in this one. So, in the very beginning of the book, when they're trying to deal with these weird ghost creatures, Tom is tackled and the blood jar cracks. So now that we have this tipping clock, and so the blood is leaking out of this, and the Fiend, if it runs out, essentially its power is leaking, and the Fiend will be able to get Tom and take his soul and torture him for all eternity. So, moving on. Eventually Tom gets back. The Grimkin shows up because Alice had summoned her back on the island. They need to figure out how to bind the Fiend, because otherwise he's torturing people. So they figured out, the Grimkin shows up, they need to bind him with silver spears in a pit. Tom somehow ends up captured and sent back into the Nether Realms, where he interacts with Cullen, the Irish folk hero, Hound of Cullen, who gives him the Sword of Destiny. So he gives him the Sword of Destiny. Big magical object known in folklore. So Tom has this silver Sword of Destiny, and he's able to use it to, once the Grimkin teaches him how to fight, and mess with slowing time, because he can do that too, because, Mom was an immortal creature. Yeah, not only is the seventh son of a seventh son, Mom was an immortal creature. The mother of all Lena witches, which I'm not sure, I think he told us Spook. It's like, yes, my mother was an immortal being. But again, he's able to mess around with time the same as the Fiend is. He's able to do that and use Cuchullin's sword to cut off the Fiend's head once his body is trapped on these silver spears, or these silver-tipped spears, because the Grimkin is a metal worker, so she's able to take the silver chain of John Gregory and melt it down and make it into these tips for binding the Fiend, which is what they do. His body is pinned in this pit on these silver spikes. He's they put a big rock over top of it to keep him confined. And the Grimkin takes off with his head and has pretty much bound him. So, and they have to figure out how to destroy him completely. Pan is able, with the Fiend's power weakened, he's able to get Alice, but she's been tortured. And she's crazy. She's very, very, very crazy. Eventually, Tom is captured yet again by this witch, and they're going to try to destroy him. Unfortunately, Alice rescues him because they tear off his sleeves. And what they had, apparently, what she explains to him once she's returned to sanity, at least to an extent, is she had marked him, and she knew about that. He knew she'd marked his arm somehow. I think she bit him. But she marked him as hers. When they were torturing her, they never showed him where she could see that mark, where they marked him, because whether they knew it or not. So when she saw that mark, she snapped out of it because she realized that she was back in the real world. She wasn't being tortured. So she was able to rescue him and destroy people. She's starting to understand the dark a heck of a lot more, and she's kind of sitting on that line. And they're probably going to have to use it, and that's kind of acknowledged in the end of this book. And Gregory acknowledges this, that his generation never touched the dark, and that Tom is the next generation, and they might have to. They might have to skirt that line in order to protect the world. So that's a really brief overview of this book. You don't really, as opposed to some of the other ones, there's not really a lot of Tom's journaling in the back of this book. It acts more of an epilogue. It's essentially acknowledging he has this sword. They're going to be chased because, again, they find evil is pissed off because they bound the Fiend. And the Grimkin's gone off with his head. So she has his head. It's bound. She's stuffed stuff in his ears and stuff and bound his mouth and is running until they can figure out how to destroy the Fiend entirely rather than just bind him. So that's essentially what the back of the book is. It's just kind of an epilogue as opposed to some of the other stuff. So that's the end of this book. Great addition to the series. These things keep getting darker and darker and darker. So again, I'll always explain this. If your kids are sensitive, if you are sensitive, don't go anywhere in this book series. I am skimming them. I will admit this thoroughly now that I am skimming them because I don't do good with the full-on dark stuff and the blood and gore. Not my thing. But this is still a really great series, and I had started it, so I'm going to finish it and at least give you a brief overview of what this book says. And I'm going to watch the horrific thing of the film, which, yes, I knew about the sorcery, read the first couple books when I saw the film come out, and I looked at the description, I'm like, what in God's name is that? But for some reason, I will torture myself and review this in order to complete this book series. So that is it for this review. Check out the rest of my channel. As always, like and subscribe. I do a lot more stuff. Most of it's a heck of a lot lighter than this. I have a bunch of stuff more planned. One of the things that's coming up in January is talk about complete change of direction and absolute utter fun fluff, very girly fluff. I'm going to review the Princess Diaries. So that is the next series I'm going to be reading once I finish this stuff, along with a bunch of other stuff. So as always, I cover a variety of things. So be sure to check out my backlog. By the time you guys view this, it's going to be a decent size. So I am filming this in October of 2021. You guys will literally be seeing this almost a year later. I will also be adding hopefully more travel stuff as we're able to get traveling as the pandemic winds down and people get vaccinated. And hopefully my daughter will be able to get vaccinated by the time you see this. We're crossing our fingers. My child will be able to get vaccinated. So, and then more education stuff as my daughter, who as of the video filming is 2. By the time you guys see this, she will be 3. So we will definitely be starting to add in more of those secular homeschooling videos and resources as we come across them. Thank you.